his great-aunts hadn't got to know about it, perhaps he'd have been safe. But when your ancestor is a magician and a king, your relations are bound to expect something of you. "Poor Charlie," Benjamin murmured. Benjamin's big yellow dog, Runnerbean, whined sympathetically from the bed. Benjamin wondered if he'd guessed what was going to happen to him. Probably. Mr. and Mrs. Brown had spent the last 2 days cleaning the house and packing. Dogs always know something is up when people start packing. "Breakfast, Benjamin?" Mrs. Brown called from the kitchen. Mr. Brown could be heard singing in the shower. Benjamin and Runnerbean went downstairs. 3 bowls of porridge sat on the kitchen table. Benjamin tucked in. His mother was frying sausages and tomatoes, and he was glad to see that she hadn't forgotten his dog. Runnerbean's bowl was already full of chopped sausage. Mr. Brown arrived still singing and still in his dressing gown. Mrs. Brown was already dressed. She wore a neat grey suit, and her straight straw-coloured hair was cut very short. She wore no jewellery. Benjamin's parents were private detectives, and they tried to look as inconspicuous as possible. Sometimes they wore a false moustache or a wig to disguise themselves. It was usually only Mr. Brown who wore the false moustaches, but on one occasion, an occasion Benjamin would like to forget, Mrs. Brown had also found it necessary to wear one. Benjamin's mother swapped his now empty bowl for a full plate and said, "You'd better take Run across to Charlie as soon as you've cleaned your teeth. We'll be off in half an hour." "Yes, Mum." Benjamin scoffed down the rest of his breakfast and ran back upstairs. He didn't tell his mother that Charlie hadn't actually agreed to look after Runnerbean. The Browns' bathroom overlooked Filbert Street, and while Benjamin was brushing his teeth, he saw a tall man in a long black coat walk down the steps of number 9. Benjamin stopped brushing and stared. What on earth was going on in Charlie's house? The tall man was Peyton Yewbeam, Charlie's great-uncle. He was wearing dark glasses and carried a white stick. Benjamin assumed the dark glasses had something to do with Peyton's unfortunate talent for exploding lights. Peyton never appeared in daylight if he could help it, but this was an extraordinary time to be going out, even for him. He walked up to a midnight blue car, opened the boot, and carefully placed the wand, for that's what it was, right at the back. Before Benjamin had even rinsed his toothbrush, Charlie's uncle had driven off. He went in the opposite direction to his sisters, Benjamin noted. This wasn't surprising, as Peyton and his sisters were sworn enemies. "You'd better go over to Charlie's," Mrs. Brown called from the kitchen. Benjamin packed his pyjamas and toothbrush and went downstairs. Runnerbean's tail hung dejectedly. His ears were down and his eyes rolled piteously. Benjamin felt guilty. "Come on, Runner." He spoke with an exaggerated cheerfulness that didn't fool his dog for 1 minute. The boy and the dog left the house together. They were best friends, and Runnerbean wouldn't have dreamt of disobeying Benjamin, but today he dragged his paws very reluctantly up the steps of number 9. Benjamin rang the bell and Runnerbean howled. It was the howl that woke Charlie. Everyone else in the house woke briefly, thought they'd had a nightmare, and went back to sleep. Charlie, recognizing the howl, staggered downstairs to open the door. "What's happened?" he asked, blinking at the street lights. "It's still night, isn't it?" "Sort of," said Benjamin. "I've got some amazing news. I'm going to Hong Kong." Charlie rubbed his eyes. "What, now?" "Yes." Charlie stared at his friend in bewilderment, and then invited him in for a piece of toast. While the toast was browning, Charlie asked Benjamin if Runnerbean would be travelling to Hong Kong with him. No," said Benjamin. "He'd have to be quarantined, and he'd hate that." "So where's he going?" Charlie glanced at Runnerbean, and the big dog gave him a forlorn sort of smile. "That's just it," Benjamin said with a slight cough. "There's no one else but you, Charlie." "Me? I can't keep a dog here," said Charlie. "Grandma Bone would kill it." don't say that." Benjamin looked anxiously at Runnerbean, who was crawling under the table. "Now look what you've done. He was upset already." As Charlie began to splutter his protests, Benjamin quickly explained that the Hong Kong visit had been a complete surprise. A Chinese billionaire had asked his parents to trace a priceless necklace that had been stolen from his Hong Kong apartment. The Browns couldn't resist such a well-paid and challenging case, but as it might take several months, they did not want to leave Benjamin behind. Unfortunately, this didn't apply to Runnerbean. Charlie slumped at the kitchen table and scratched his head. His bushy hair was even more tangled than usual. "Oh," was all he could say. "Thanks, Charlie." Benjamin shoved a large piece of toast into his mouth. "I'll let myself out." At the kitchen door he looked back guiltily. "I'm sorry. I hope we'll be all right, Charlie." And then he was gone. Benjamin was so excited he had forgotten to tell Charlie about his uncle and the wand, or the visit of his 3 aunts. From the kitchen window, Charlie watched his friend dash across the street and jump into the Browns' large green car. Charlie lifted his hand to wave, but the car drove off before Benjamin had seen him. "Now what?" mumbled Charlie. As if in answer, Runnerbean growled from beneath the table. Benjamin hadn't thought to leave any dog food for him, and Mr. and Mrs. Brown were obviously far too busy to think of such mundane items. "Detectives," he muttered. For 5 minutes, Charlie struggled to think how he was going to keep Runnerbean a secret from Grandma Bone. But thinking was exhausting so early in the day. Charlie laid his head on the table and fell asleep. As luck would have it, Grandma Bone was the first person downstairs that morning.
"What's this?"
Her shrill voice woke Charlie with a start.
"Sleeping in the kitchen? You're lucky it's Saturday. You'd have missed the school bus."
Charlie blinked up at the tall, stringy woman in her grey dressing gown. A snowy pigtail hung down her back, and it swung from side to side as she began to march about the kitchen, banging on the kettle, slamming the fridge door, and plonking hard butter on the counter. Suddenly, she swivelled round and stared at Charlie.
"I smell dog,"
she said accusingly. Charlie remembered Runnerbean. "Dog?" he stammered. Luckily, the heavy tablecloth hung almost to the ground, and his grandmother couldn't see Runnerbean.
"Has that friend of yours been here? He always smells of dog."
"Benjamin? Yes," said Charlie. "He came to say goodbye. He's going to Hong Kong."
"Good riddance,"
she grunted. When Grandma Bone went into the larder, Charlie grabbed Runnerbean's collar and dragged him upstairs. "I don't know what I'm going to do with you," sighed Charlie. "I've got to go to school on Monday, and I won't be back till Friday. I had to sleep there, you know." Runnerbean jumped onto Charlie's bed, wagging his tail. He'd spent many happy hours in Charlie's bedroom. Charlie decided to ask his Uncle Peyton for help. Slipping out of his room, he crept along the landing until he came to his uncle's door. A Do Not Disturb sign hung just above Charlie's eye level. He knocked. There was no reply. Charlie cautiously opened the door and looked in. Peyton wasn't there. It was unlike him to leave the house in the morning. Charlie went over to a big desk covered with books and scraps of paper. On the tallest pile of books, there was an envelope with Charlie's name on it. Charlie withdrew a sheet of paper from the envelope and read his uncle's large, scrawly handwriting. "Charlie, dear boy, my sisters are up to no good. Heard them plotting in the small hours. Have decided to go and put a stop to things. If I don't, someone very dangerous will arrive. No time to explain. We'll be back in a few days, I hope. Yours affectionately, Uncle P. P.S. Have taken wand." "Oh, no," Charlie groaned. "When are things going to stop